Recently, I came across what I would call a propaganda against the government on sensitive issues such as national security, wherein sensible people who are who are educationally very good, who are professionally successful, I would say the main opposition party also, and a plethora of great people putting their propaganda on very thin ice, you know, against the government. And I was debating with my friends on social media, talking to people regarding it, and I found many such arguments which could be, countered within 2 3 minutes of just giving them the right facts. Sometimes it was difficult though, even though the facts were there, people were not ready to believe. They came out with some conspiracy theories and all that kind of stuff. So that made me think, why do perfectly reasonable people think this way? Why do perfectly reasonable people rationalize some imaginary things or things which are, you know, far, far away from facts? I heard of a saying somewhere that facts don't care for your emotions. And I believe uh, that actually facts don't care for your emotional. Facts are facts. It cannot be changed. But looking at this particular reaction of people, I understood that the reverse of it is very true. That emotions do not care for facts. That a reaction based on emotion do not care whether the facts are right or wrong. So, so we all are basically made of our beliefs, our value systems, uh, what we feel is right and wrong, our ethics, our culture, basically. So every one of us come through certain of this notion. We have notions regarding what we like, what we don't like, what we feel is ours, what we feel is not ours. So we usually take information that is from our sensory organs, and then we use these filters of our culture, our beliefs, our value systems to decide whether we like it or not, and then we have an emotional reaction to this uh, particular information which we get. So that trigger, that emotional reaction, is then rationalized. I used to think rationality is when we have the information, we go and process the information, but it is not so. It's not that simple. It has another two folds. Whenever we take information, we predominantly react emotionally to every information we take. So our first response is basically not about analyzing the information, but an emotional response to whatever the information is. And then our mind does what it has evolved when it wanted to survive in a very extreme climate. That is, it rationalizes our beliefs, gives us reason to, justify our emotions. That is basically a tribal mentality where you wanted to fit into a community of like minded people. So rather than questioning your emotions, usually your mind rationalizes those emotions, gives you reason to believe that what you felt, the emotions which you felt were right. Jonathan Haidt very rightly coined it out that your rational faculties act as a lawyer, even many times knowing that their client, that is, whatever your emotion reactions were wrong, they still tend to defend it that is what is their job. So this is what happened. This is out of a caveman mentality where you needed that as an evolutionary process. But as we evolved from that into a civilized man, that is where various cultures, specifically the Indian culture, talks in depth of Pashuvritti and how to suppress it. It calls itself a Pashuvritti, the way how would an animal react. So you get out of it. That, and in other ways, in other cultures also, it is where intellectual or a thinker blossoms, is when he is able to suppress his emotional triggers and think on it. So this particular emotional reaction is universal. We all have come from a particular culture or particular value system. So all of us are will, and definitely we do react in an emotional manner, and then we rationalize it. Let us take an example for this. Say, for example, a corrupt person or a criminal, what he would do. He has an emotional reaction. A corrupt person might be greedy, a criminal might feel that certain wrong things has happened with him, and so he deserves his revenge or he deserves certain reactions, and his rational faculties will definitely rationalize his action. They will give him a reason that, like for corruption, it will be like everyone does it, so what is wrong if you do it? There is no wrong, nothing wrong in it. You should also be part of that thing. So it will make you, fit into that thing. It will justify your emotional reactions. Similarly, a criminal, that thing would justify his using the facts and situation in such a way that it will justify him that his crime, whatever he has done for a reason. That he might be, exploited, he might had been used, or whatever the thing says. He might be hungry, so his hunger is more important than someone else's money or whatever it is. So this is how a rational thing works. We can take another example how we filter normal knowledge, which we might not be a criminal or a corrupt person, but that is how we do. Say for example, I have a friend known as Samir. Now say Samir has done something wrong. He has done a corruption. Uh, he has eaten up some funds. Now I have taken this thing from a filter that Samir is my friend. I have a very positive image of him. So now my rational faculties will ask a question that must I believe this information that Samir is a fraud? And then because of my emotional reaction, I feel whenever I heard that name, I felt good. I will be like, no, Samir can't do it, and I'll rationalize to defend Samir, even whatever might be the truth. I would rationalize. I would have reasons to stand by him and fight for him. And say for the other, I have another person, say Wasim, or say any XYZ person whom I do not have a very good opinion of. Forget I don't know him or I don't know him. That usually happens. We judge people without even knowing them, without knowing their side of the story. It is because the society has given me a filter. Say society has, or certain people whom I trust, they have told me that XYZ person is a bad person. So now I hear some news about him that he has done a murder or a robbery. Now I take it through a filter, even if I don't know this particular person, I would take it through the filter of the people whom I know who have supplied me information about him, or maybe I hate that particular person, whatever the things are. And then I ask a question, Can I believe this information that he's a robber or whoever? And then the answer to it will definitely be yes, because that will give me a feeling of satisfaction because I actually hate this person. I know that this person is wrong. This is what usually happens when, kind of Baba Ramdev comes up with a claim that he has clinically tested his things and people start mocking him. Because when they hear the name Baba Ramdev, because he's a Baba, they have a particular emotional reaction to it. They have a Hindu phobic reaction to it, or they have some other things, some aversion towards the Hindu saints. It is not their conscious decision. It's not done by them by knowing what is Baba. They might have no experience of Baba Ramdev. They might have no experience of Ayurveda itself. But they will have this urge to hate him. And then they will rationalize him. They will mock him. They will come out with cartoons, information, supporting what we call as fact, supporting their hatred. So this hatred is not theirs. It's not, they have not come up with this hate. This hatred is supplied to them or put into their head through a particular, maybe they live in a particular community or they speak about him in such a way or his close people does it. So that is the reaction. So, and that is how we all are biased. Biasness is universal, though we throw it out loosely that to depict someone's dishonesty. It's not actually dishonesty. Bias is there, is a universal thing. But then what makes us different? Because whatever the thing is, however you rationally process the information, once you process it through the triggers of your emotional reactions, the truth is naturally the only casualty. Because rationalism is not a tool to find out what is right until and unless it is delinked from your emotional responses, your emotional reactions. So, and you cannot, totally control your emotional reaction. So, how do you do it? The only way to do is to be open for the big picture, to have the seeking that you do not, to have the knowledge that you do not understand it totally, you need to know more. And being open for new ideas, understanding the whole story of it. Why do people say it? What has happened? So, the subtle difference between this and just your natural way of doing it is you will, and the one more reason how you can identify it, the people who does this naturally evolutionary way of doing it will focus on winning an argument. They don't care. They might not have narratives, but what is their focus is just to win an argument and to satisfy what we loosely call as their ego, as their emotional feeling of being victorious or being right, or whatever the triggers, their satisfaction of those triggers, which made them rationalize it. So, that particular thing, these people would look at winning the argument. They would put this T9 thing like the 50 odd apps which were banned. It was the biggest move by any power against China economically, doing it officially against a particular state. After that, many powers like the European Union, the Japanese, the US are thinking of similar steps. But we mocked it and compared it with the killing of our 20 soldiers. Definitely, we have also killed certain people out there. But facts doesn't matter. We spin out facts to justify a narrative. It's because we want to win an argument. The person who is seeking for the truth or seeking for a deeper understanding of it will try to understand the whole big picture, what he has done, why he has done, and then that particular person will be also open to newer ideas. He'll be not stuck with what he believes or what conclusion he has come up with. And that is the way the world should move forward rather than going back to a cave mentality and being very attached to the jargons. They just want slogans, not solution to it. Another way of another indicator of it is making people emotional. So anything, say for example, if Osama bin Laden is killed, they'll put a story saying that Osama bin Laden, he was a civil engineer. Nobody knows the pain of a young civil engineer. He had 20 family members to support. He was the only earning member. He had his kid thinking that tomorrow morning his father would take him for a walk. He had his one wife who was thinking of preparing biryani and some whatever tangdi kebab for Osama. And then the cruel American army came and shot him dead. So they spin facts on an emotional ground rather than on a factual grounds because they want to trigger your emotional response. That is the same reason I say that I do not believe into activism unless and until you have gone through the pain. I cannot do activism for something which I have never suffered for. Uh, but that is how the world tries to hijack the debate today and win an argument by triggering human, you know, by humanizing the argument. There is no such thing as humanizing argument. You cannot humanize argument, you cannot humanize facts. Facts are facts. When we now today understand that emotional reaction doesn't care for facts, you humanizing of an argument is just making you trigger your emotional reactions and then blur your ability to understand things and make you a person who rationalizes his emotional reaction. Thank you.